Hi, this is Grant Putnam, Putnam Landscaping. Just want to quickly go through the structure and explain how we do property maintenance. Okay, so our advantage is that we can provide more of a cohesive approach rather than splitting it up amongst many different providers. And that comes into play when you're trying to prevent lawn diseases, diagnose issues with plants and trees, whether it's overwatering, underwatering, insect issues. So it's almost like an insurance policy. You're not having to dump more money into your landscaping because things weren't noticed, or you have the wrong people in the property that don't have the expertise to realize that there's an issue. All right. So our design build experience really comes into play in regards to that. Because for example, we know how to identify all the plants. We know what plants do well in wet conditions, dry conditions, shady, and sun. So outside of being able to properly maintain the plants, it also allows you to build a relationship with the company that you can do future projects as far as enhancing the way that your landscape looks. So, and just quickly on design build, we offer again the same thing, more of a full approach, whether it's outdoor lighting, landscaping, grading, irrigation, we do everything in-house. Okay, so kind of going down through the estimate here. For weekly lawn mowing, the way we separate ourselves is we vacuum the clippings. Most companies disperse the clippings, so it takes us about 20% more time to collect them, but then you're going to have these advantages listed here rather than dispersing the clippings. So we're going to typically be a little bit more expensive, but again, there's some advantages on the back end in regards to that. Okay, and then there's spring cleanup. That's pretty straightforward. Fall cleanup. A lot of companies only come 2-3 times to do a fall cleanup. We do it every single lawn cutting visit. So that's most of the weeks during the fall. So this way your property looks well cut every week rather than just intermittently. Okay. Shrub trimming. A lot of people don't realize this, but every shrub has its own characteristic. It needs to be trimmed at a specific time of the year. Hence, you can't just lump sum your trimming and say, oh, I'm going to come twice a year and trim the plants. By doing that, you're going to lose most of your blooms. A lot of plants, such as roses and certain types of perennials, are rebloomers. So technically, they'll bloom in the spring, and then you continually prune those or deadhead those flowers, which will then cause it to rebloom. So if you've got a sizable investment in your shrubs and you really want them to look like they're supposed to, then there's only really one right way to do that, and that is come, periodically, roughly once a month during the growing season, and trim the plants that are supposed to be trimmed that month. But again, that goes back towards design build experience. Unless you know the names of the plants and the guys are trained in regards to what types of plants need to be trimmed at what months, then you're going to have issues with that. All right. Now, the other big thing to point out with that is that with boxwood blight being an issue in Connecticut starting last year, that's a disease that if you get that disease, there is no cure for it. You can get that disease many different ways, but one possible way is that someone transfers it from one property to the next. Now, again, you can't, if you do get blight, potentially could literally just be an animal brushing up a bush on one infected plant and then moving to your property and brushing up to yours. Okay, but one other possibility is carrying the disease through the pruners from one house to the next. So we take very special attention in regards to sanitizing the pruners between houses just to avoid the possibility of that happening. All right. Also, typically, let's get the screen back up here. Typically, we'll end up doing some property manager visits, and it's just another layer of insurance that everything's being well kept. You get another set of eyes on the property. So you'll notice that's typically something that we offer as well. Okay. Spring mulching, pretty straightforward. Deer rabbit repellent. That's to prevent the plants being damaged from deer or rabbits eating them. So that's straightforward. Tying the boxwood, some people opt for that because you'll get the heavy snow during the winter and it'll crush your plants. So if you've got a lot of nice boxwoods, it's probably recommended to consider thinking about that. We do tree pruning on ornamental trees, so smaller trees. Typically offer that as a separate service during the summer. Window cleaning, power washing, gutter cleaning, night lighting. Those are all self-explanatory. Those are optional services. Plant and tree healthcare, systemic. You really need that if you have boxwoods because they get something called leaf miner insect, which is almost guaranteed to get if you have a boxwood in the property. Hemlocks get something called woolly adelgid insect, so if you got hemlocks, you got to treat that. Weeping cherries and also white birch trees get borers insect. If you get a borers insect in your trees, there's a good chance the trees will die. So you're better off preventing it rather than not. Fungicides, that's again specific to each property. Okay, and then you got your summer and fall horticultural oils. That's the most environmentally safe way to kill insect populations that are feeding on your plants. And then fall deep root feeding. So just what it sounds, it's basically giving the plants the necessary nutrients to thrive the following season. Okay, and then there's a bunch of optional services here as well that you could choose from. Tick spray, the way we separate ourselves is highlighted in blue, but we're using better equipment than the average company, hence you get a better coverage. Okay, irrigation service, typically people always get the spring opening, the winterizing, but you really need to also adjust the system during the season if you want to avoid overwatering, underwatering issues. Okay, so that's included within our price. Lawn care. The basic way to think about this is there's really no shortcuts with lawn. If you really want a nice lawn, then you have to do everything the right way. Everything is itemized in here in regards to each visit, but we pay attention to small details that a lot of other companies don't. So we're ending up in the fall using a hand tool called a garden weasel to get along the edges of your Belgian block, edges of the driveway and beds. It takes a lot more time, but then you're going to get grass growing where you typically don't get it growing because the core aerating machine can't get that close to the edges. Okay, so we're paying special attention to do things the right way. We're spot spraying the weeds versus just broadcast spraying the weeds, which is more helpful for the lawn, and so obviously more environmentally safe. And again, we're just using the best possible products. So there's a whole range of different lawn products that you can use, but if you're using the best products with the best technology, then you'll get better results. Okay, so some people that have shady sections of the property need to do spring seeding, so we list that as an option, or perhaps if you need it, then we'll put it right in the proposal for you. And this last page is just a summary of the various services, and then typically we'll have a payment schedule. Some people opt to pay up front for a discount, and some people just pay monthly, a fixed amount per month. So that's about it. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon.